What up, what up, what up, everybody? This is the Doctor Football Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dennis Teehan, recording from my real live medical office in Dedham, Massachusetts. Joining me, as always, the CEO of Hedge Better, coming from the Hedge Better studio in Braintree, Mass. Justin Fein, my co-host. Justin, what's going on, my man? How's it going? It's going good. Yeah, football is back big time, big time. And there's already like a lot of huge storylines with this team, and it's only been a week. So there's a ton to talk about. We got a great roster of topics to go through today. We're going to get into what we're seeing from Gerard Mayo. We're going to get into the whole Matthew Judon situation and how that might potentially affect this team. We got the whole Drake May thing. There's position battles up and down the roster, and there's a ton of stuff going around the league. So like the NFL is back big time, and there hasn't even been a snap yet. Absolutely. Are you following the Sox at all? You're a Yankees fan? I'm sure you're a Yankees fan. Yeah, yeah, it is definitely true. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. This isn't a baseball podcast, so I'm not going to get thick into that. But I agree. But I have fallen a little this year. I think this is a fun Red Sox team. It doesn't look like they really did anything of relevance to the trade deadline because we're recording this at 5:20. It's like I think the trade deadline was at 5. So it looks like what you see is what you get at this point. Yeah, right. Well, look, this might apply to the Pats too. I think it definitely applies to the Pats too. But like, this is an unexpected. The team is Red Sox is having an unexpected good year. Let's not be spoiled, entitled New England fans. Let's just enjoy this year for what it is. Like they're going to make a run at the wild card. That's fun. That's fun. We thought they were going to be at the bottom of the league, and they're a fun team. They're a scrappy team. They've got some emerging young players. Just enjoy it. Baseball's kind of back a little. Just enjoy it. But it's the same thing with the Pats, Justin, because it's like this mentality of like only a championship will do. And it's like that's a reflection of how spoiled we have been the last 20 years. And look, if you're always seeking and only satisfied with championships as a sports fan, you're going to spend the vast majority of your time as a sports fan profoundly disappointed. It's the same thing with the Patriots. You're going to have to learn to appreciate competition, appreciate a good team, and take and find the value in progress, frankly, of rebuilding because the Patriots as well are not likely to be a contender this year. And that's one of the things we're going to get to is like how patient Patriots fans should be at this point because we're already 4 years into a rebuild. This will be our fifth. But let's start with the kickoff. That's the opening take to set the stage for the podcast. And I wanted to begin with what I think is really I think there's three top stories in Patriot Nation right now. So we're gonna start with all three of them. I want we're gonna talk about Gerard Mayo. We're going to talk about Matt Judon. We're going to talk about the quarterback room. To me, those are the three big stories right now in Foxborough. And I want to start with the Gerard Mayo take because I've been critical of Gerard Mayo, and I still am very skeptical of him just because I don't see the experience, and I think experience counts, and I think there are more qualified, experienced candidates available. We've talked about that a few times, but I like what I've seen from Gerard Mayo so far in this training camp, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I feel like he's doing things his own way, and I feel like he's striking his own balance. He is not necessarily being the softy players coach that you might think he is because he's so communicative. Like all reports are the practices have been tough. All reports are that he's working these guys hard and he's challenging them in camp more than Bill Belichick did. Because these camps were kind of country club the last few years under Bill Belichick. And I'm like wondering, what are these preseason games going to be like, Justin? Because we knew Bill Belichick had the preseason roadmap that he used for like 30 years. Like you knew what you were getting. And the last couple of years, he pretty much took the preseason as a joke, total joke. My sense is Mayo isn't going to do that. Like he's working these guys. He's running a tough camp. They're practicing hard. There's more contact. It's more physical. They're getting more reps. He's not trying to be Bill Belichick. That's what I like about it. He's doing his own thing. He's being his own man. Right. Right. They don't have that luxury anymore. Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that, in my opinion, we talked about each of the last 2 or 3 years that Belichick not taking the preseason and training camp seriously might have had a lot to do with why this team had started so slow. Go back to their Septembers, even in the post Brady era, always getting off to a bad start. I think back to that horrible game in Miami in 2022. I'm thinking to a 1-3 start in 2021. I mean, last year, I think it was another terrible, what was it, 1-3 last year, so 0-4, 1-3. The Jets game with playing against Zach Wilson was their only win, right? And like this team has started slow. So Mayo is responding to that. He's working these guys. He's taking this serious, and I think that it's essential because you can't fall to 0-4 with this team. The season's over. They got a young team with a lot of unproven players and a lot of depth and a lot of uncertainty, a lot of gambles, wild cards. So I think it kind of fits in a competitive training camp, a competitive preseason. I think is the right way to go for them. Another thing I love that Mayo did, Justin, and we're going to segue to Matt Judon in a second and what the Patriots should do with him. But I think Gerard Mayo passed his first test with Matthew Judon, in my opinion, because what Matt Judon did yesterday at training camp was disrespectful, disruptive, ridiculous. And he would never have even attempted to do that under Bill Belichick to challenge. I think in a way he challenged the authority of Mayo and really this whole new regime. And for him to be told, which is what we would presume happened, we don't know for sure. It hasn't been reported, but he's not in practice today. For them to basically tell him to stay at home today, that to me was a show of strength and authority from Gerard Mayo that I need to see from him to start believing in him. But there are legitimate reasons why they didn't sign Matthew Judon yet. Not the least of which is they paid him a truckload of money last year. He played 3 games. He tore his bicep. He's 32 years old. Look, I'm hoping they work it out with Judon too, but you cannot let the player walk all over you. And what he did yesterday was disrespectful. And I love that Mayo went up to him and chewed him out right there on the field in front of everybody. And I love that he's not in practice today. And they probably told him to stay at home today. To me, that's the right move. You know, having lived through the Pete Carroll era, and I know that's a little before your time, when you go from an authoritarian coach like Parcells or Belichick to a quote unquote players coach, okay, it can be pretty quick that the locker room gets lost and things just get out of control. That's what happened with Pete Carroll. Mayo has to show that even though he's a communicator and even though he can be respectful to his players' feelings more than Belichick ever would be, and he's trying to make things more comfortable and user friendly than Belichick ever cared to do, that he still has control of this locker room. He's going to need that this season when they're like 2-12 or something, right? So I think he had to do this. I think he had to clamp down on Judon to get out of here with that nonsense. Right? Absolutely. And what did we say a few weeks ago? There's a downside to handing out all these bags of cash this offseason, which is that at some place, if you're running this organization right, then you have to draw the line somewhere and say, we paid X, Y, and Z, but we can't pay him because it doesn't work for whatever the reason is, right or wrong. And and so that's what they've done here. They've drawn the line in the sand, which they were inevitably going to have to do. And you can't have guys going up the back stairs to the GM. You can't have guys subverting the authority of the coach. You can't have guys being disruptive in the locker room because they are on the wrong side of the line in the sand. It's still part of professionalism in running a successful franchise that there has to be a certain attitude and culture inside that locker room. And it's up to Mayo to engender that. And he did that with the way he handled Matt Judon. I'm sorry. So I give him huge credit. Yep. Right. Well, first impressions are everything in life, right? It can take you years. If you make a bad first impression to anything in life, it can literally take you years to reverse them. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, kudos to Mayo because you know what? I call him like I see him, and even though I'm skeptical, I think he passed his first few tests, and I think he's had a. I think Mayo has had a good first week of camp personally. Let's talk. We're gonna before we get into the quarterback situation, is the other big story. Let's talk about Judon since we're talking about him, Justin. Personally, I think we're going to differ on this one. I see a player that's 32, coming off a major injury. I thought their defense was pretty good, anyways, without him last year. I like Keon White. I like some of the other players they have. I'm not giving this guy. I don't know. I don't think I'm giving this guy big money. The way he's acted the last few days, I'd almost let him walk. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say something that a lot of Patriots fans are probably going to criticize me for, rip me apart for, and you probably will too. Which is like, look, I like Matt Judon, but he's more like sack guy. He's more Tully Bantakane or Rob Anderson than he is J.J. Watt or Joey Bosa. I'm sorry, like he fell off the map in 21. Remember, he did nothing coming down the stretch. He fell off the map in 22. Okay, he gets your 10, 12 sacks. I don't feel like he is quite, and he's a better player than both those guys, granted. I don't feel like he's quite that game-changing, disruptive defensive end that that you could justify giving that big commitment to. No, even independent of the health, even when he played in 21 and 22 and he was healthy. And by the way, I don't think he was fully healthy either of those years, which is probably another consideration. The guy can't stay healthy, but even when he has been relatively healthy, his performance has fallen off at the end of the season, and he gets a lot of sacks, but I don't feel like he's quite at that upper echelon of defensive ends in the NFL. I'm sorry. Right. So do you want to make a commitment to that guy at 32 years old, coming off a major injury? Do you think that based on his actions the last few days, does he act like a guy that wants to be here? Like, is part of this from him that he's probably trying to kind of blast his way out of town a little bit? You think? Right. Right. He's 32 with an injury history. He wants to finish his career strong, not be 5-12 here. Because if he wanted to be here, in my opinion, the right thing to do would be to like show up, play the role of good soldier, prove it on the field, and go negotiate with Elliott Wolf, who's proven that he's more than willing to resign his own guys. Right. There's no question. And to be clear, I'm with you. Like, I don't blame him for that 0% because why would he want to come play for a loser? At this point in his career, if I'm Matt Judon, I want to get paid and I want to play for a winner more than anything else. So I get it. But yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. Like, I would trade Matt Judon in a second. If I get anything mid-round pick for him, a second, I would do it yesterday, right? Third or fourth, I'd probably do it tomorrow and just get him out of here, let him move on, and move on with some of the young players they have. Yeah, I mean, you have to figure he has value to a lot of teams, even at this point in his career. Right. It does always kind of feel like though in the NFL that like whatever you think a player is worth on the trade market, they're always worth less. You know what I mean? Doesn't it always feel like, oh, he'll get a first rounder and they end up getting like a third rounder? Just feels like for whatever reason, NFL franchises place so much value and emphasis on draft picks that like they don't want to part with them. Okay, let's talk about the quarterback situation. That's the other big story out of Foxborough. I think there's a lot of buzz on that. Let me say this, Justin, about the Drake May thing. There have been a steady stream of negative reporting around Drake May's performance in his first week of training camp. And I'm a little skeptical of all that, to be honest with you, because of a lot of reasons. He's not playing with the number ones, and it's the first week. So let's just like pump the brakes and take it easy. And I want to know how concerned you are about sort of the fact that Drake may not look great so far in training camp, because I will tell you, I'm not concerned at all. This is 1 week of training camp. On the other side of the spectrum, look at how good Mac Jones looked after his first week of training camp and his whole first preseason and what he became. Josh Allen looked like absolute crap until the end of his second year in the NFL. He started like 30 games and he looked like a deer in the headlights for the majority of that time. We cannot overreact to 1 week of training camp when a guy, by the way, is playing with a bunch of backup players who won't even make the team and taking reps with them. People are way overreacting to the reporting around Drake May. Whoa, bad energy. Like throw some salt over your shoulder or something. Go light some incense. Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of like the future of Drake May, there is zero prognostic value as to in the last 7 days. Like, let's not go overboard here and say that we can extrapolate what this kid might or might not be when he's ready because he doesn't look good. That's a stupid thing to say. And I can't believe how many people are saying it. That's absurd. But I think one thing we can read a little window into, and we've talked about this and you just alluded to it, like where is the quarterback battle on this team right now? Like it feels like Brissett's getting all the reps with the number ones. May's getting the reps as the backup. It feels like there there might not be a legitimate battle between Brissett and May, even that it might kind of already be the will of the team or the leaning of the team, strong leaning of the team that that Brissett is going to be the guy for at least the beginning part of the season, if not the whole season. What if this is like a Pat Mahomes type situation where he doesn't even see the field this year, or like even a Jordan Love type situation, Justin, where this is like a 3+ year wait, where this guy has a very high ceiling, but he's like not ready at all. He's not gonna be ready for a couple of years. I mean, are you okay with that? I mean, how long are you comfortable with waiting? Question. Right. It comes down to this sort of like fundamental question, which is do you believe in developing a quarterback with trial by fire, just throwing him in there, letting him take his lumps and learn his lessons, which is what happened with Josh Allen. And he looked terrible for 2 years. And then all of a sudden he became a franchise quarterback. We were laughing at Josh Allen in Patriots Nation. He was that bad. Don't forget how awful that guy was for 2 seasons. Is it better to do that, or is it better to store them up in bubble wrap and wait until not only the player is ready, but the team is ready for the player. Because that's the other piece of this, right? Like, is this Patriots team ready for Drake May? And I mean, are they going to be able to protect him? Do they have the weapons so that he doesn't get killed when he steps on the field? So that's more like the Mahomes approach, the Jordan Love approach. The reality is, both approaches have been successful. If you're asking me which one I like better, I want to see Drake May out on the field as soon as possible, take his lumps, learn his lessons, and develop on the field. But the problem is his team is so bad, they might get him killed. And that, at least at first. And that might do damage to him psychologically, physically, that you can't recover from. So you're gonna err on the side of caution, I think. Yep, totally. Right. And to your point, like, it's easy to take the Jordan Love approach and develop him for 3 years. Jordan Love was not ready to step on an NFL field. I think he would have been an abject disaster if he didn't have 3 years to sit. Who knows Mahomes? He probably would have been great either way. But he had Alex Smith to protect him. Jordan Love had Aaron Rodgers. You're winning games. There's no pressure on the team or the player to throw him out there. It's going to be hard if they start losing. There's going to be a ton of pressure on the Patriots to put Drake May out there. If you're 7-5 with Jacoby Brissett and you're a competitive team, it's going to be much easier to shelve this guy and say, you know what, he's taking a redshirt year, he's taking a developmental year. That's going to be much easier for the fans, the franchise, the locker room, everyone to swallow. It does make you realize, though, like how much they do have at stake in Drake May. When you hear all the negative reporting and you're like, oh shit, like if this doesn't work out, like what now? What now? Yep. Well, that actually segues good into the next thing I was going to bring up, which is like, how patient should we be as Patriots fans? Like, there is a tremendous amount of concern about Drake May already. There is already people saying, I've heard in the last couple of days, that Elliott Wolf, blew it by taking a guy who's not ready to play from the beginning. There's a lot of pressure for them to put him on the field right from the beginning. There are a lot of Patriots fans that their patience has been exhausted. And I think you just hit on something important, which is, this is not a fresh rebuild from scratch. This is year 5. of the rebuild, in my opinion. And I think you would agree with that. They've been under 500 three of the last four seasons. We've already watched a lot of bad football. I wouldn't even say mediocre, maybe at best mediocre football the last few years. How patient should Patriots fans be at this point? Don't you feel like our patience is a little exhausted? They that's right, Justin. But you know what? Isn't it a shame that they didn't do this in like 2019 when you still had Brady for another year or maybe even longer at that? You know what I mean? Like you bring in your Drake May then and you develop him then. And then when you're ready to move on from Brady, your guy's already in the system. Like we've talked about it 1,000 times. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but God, did they blow that transition so bad because they had, if any team in the history of the NFL has had the opportunity to prepare for a quarterback transition or away from a franchise quarterback to the next guy, it was this team. Brady was so entrenched here. It went on for so long. He was so successful. And everyone on the inside, now we know, knew the end was coming because of everything that was happening. They were holding it together with scotch tape and bubble gum for like 4 years at the end. And you knew it was coming and you didn't do anything about it. You didn't do anything. You let it end. And here you are 5 years later, and you're trying to find the next guy, and he's a developmental guy who might not be ready for 2 or 3 years. Yeah, a lot of people think that. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely contributed to the sense of urgency that people have. Like, if we had drafted Drake May in 2019 and this was 2020 or something, or 2019, and this was a fresh rebuild, I think people would be way more comfortable with holding off, keeping May on the sideline for a couple of years. I'll just never forget that alert I got on my phone. The Patriots have signed Cam Newton. That was like June 20th of 2020. There was no plan. There was no plan in place, and it still kills them to this day. All right, let's talk a little bit, Justin. I want to talk very quickly about the Christian Barmore story. I'm going to put on my doctor hat for a second here, and I don't know if people in Patriots Nation really appreciate how serious this situation is. with Christian Barmore, not so much in a medical sense, because medically, most likely he'll be fine. But in terms of his ability to play a contact sport, that is very much in jeopardy medically, depending on why he had blood clots. And um, we got very lucky with David Andrews. I don't know the details medically of that, but it is the case that sometimes someone can get a blood clot and it can be from like a transient cause. And then they go on these blood thinner medications for 3 months and they stop the medication, they move on with their life. But it's also the case sometimes that if someone has an underlying genetic disorder that predisposes them to clotting, that they have to stay on those medications for the rest of their life. And if that happens, Christian Barmore cannot play football ever again. So I think his future, not only is his season in jeopardy, his career is in jeopardy. Now, I don't know any medical details. It might have been that he got a blood clot from a trauma in his leg, and that would make sense. And if, you know, all his blood tests come back fine and he has no what we call thrombophilia, meaning a genetic predisposition to clotting, then he'll be back next year, if not later this year. But it's very much up in the air, the future of this player. And that sucks because he was probably their best young player. Right. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I honestly think you could argue that he is their best player. I really believe that. Like from what we saw from him last year, he took a step up. He was disruptive. He was a factor. He was consistent or more consistent than he had been the year before or 2 years before. I think he was literally. I mean, you tell me who's better on this roster than Christian Barmore. I mean, you had been saying all offseason that the reason you were prognosticating the Patriots to be better than most other people are is because you had faith in this defense. And now in the course of like 5 days, you lost Christian Barmore probably for the season, and Matt Judon very much up in the air whether he's going to be here or play another snap for the Patriots. Basically. So now are you re-examining your take on this defense and how it's going to benefit this team this year? Are you re-examining that? Yeah. And not a lot of NFL players, by the way, have. I mean, I guess if you take a year off from injury, it's different. But I feel like when guys take a year off, like for whatever reason, it doesn't always go well. Like a full year off, which is more or less what this would be. To me, Justin, personally, if you're asking me to rank the losses on the Stevens, like to me, the Barmore loss is way more devastating than a potential Matt Judon loss. Yeah. And they got no one to replace him. You can't replace the guy. Like, I feel like they have some young players that could potentially replace what Judon is. Like they're kind of disruptive middle of the defensive line. There aren't many players in the league like that. Oh yeah, you got big money. Oh yes, it's an added blow. Added blow. But Justin, let me tell you something. Let me clue you in since you're a young guy. Okay. This is what happens to losing franchises. That is the first thing, God forgive me, when I heard the Christian Barmore news, that is the first thing I thought of. This is the kind of shit that used to happen to the Patriots when they were the bottom of the barrel losing team of the late 80s, the early 90s, and a little bit of the Pete Carroll era when they were circling down the drain in the Pete Carroll era, right? This is the kind of shit that happens to losing teams, losing players in ways, that like contract disputes and like weird things that happen to people that like would never, ever, you'd never imagine that would happen. That's what happens when you suck. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, right? What else do they have to protect the young quarterback but the fact that they have a good defense? I mean, I've always thought the defense thing was a little overrated. Like, I'm really not with you on that one. I think they have a good defense, but I put it more like closer to top 10 than top five, personally. And I think Patriots fans are in for a rude awakening on Christian Gonzalez, by the way, this year. Like, get ready. I know you think he's Deion Sanders. He's not. He's a second year guy that played 3 games last year. Get ready for a rude awakening. But overall, you know, I don't think the defense is as great as some people did. I think it's good. Um, that's the only thing they have that could protect their young quarterback or whoever plays quarterback is that defense. So it's a huge blow, the fact that they might not be as good. You want to move it to around the league, Justin? You got anything else on the training camp? All right, let's shift gears a little. I want to talk about a few of the things happening outside of Foxborough. The big story this week, I thought, outside of Foxborough, around the NFL, were the quarterback deals given to Tua Tagovailoa and Jordan Love, locally in Boston, nationally on ESPN. I think these deals were generally universally criticized and panned by pretty much every pundit I heard. I have a totally contrarian take on this. I think they were both great signings for each of these franchises. I'm not a Tua lover. I called him trash on this podcast a couple years ago. I admit I was wrong. Do I think the guy is Pat Mahomes or Dan Marino? No, but I think he's a good quarterback, and I think you could win with him. I see the problem with that Miami franchise as the coach, not Tua. I think you surround Tua with talent, you can win with this guy. And what I would say to you, anyone that thinks these were bad signings, is that who else besides Patrick Mahomes in the league right now has actually won a Super Bowl, right? Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, even Trevor Lawrence. All these guys signed. No one criticizes anything. What if any of these guys won? Why are these guys entitled to promissory greatness, and guys like Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa are not? They've had similar levels of accomplishments. If you really look at it in the postseason, I honestly think you cannot let good quarterbacks walk away, even if there's uncertainty around them. Surround them with talent. That's what you have to do. You can't go back to the drawing board and draft the next Trey Lance or Mac Jones or Zach Wilson. So I think these moves are good moves for both franchises. You're right about that, but what choice do they have? Because you can't go back to the drawing board. So what you have to do if you're the Miami Dolphins is you have to sign Tua, and then you have to hope that you hit a few draft picks that you were lucky to hit. You get a couple good players in like the fourth, fifth, or sixth round. You find a franchise tackle or some or a franchise cornerback or in the sixth or seventh round. That's your only hope because your alternative is that you're the Patriots or whatever, the Panthers, and you're going back to the top of the draft and you're hoping you get lucky. It's not easy to climb to the top of the mountain. But if I'm the Dolphins, or if I'm any NFL franchise, I would take Tua 1,000 times over Trevor Lawrence. I think he's done more and been a better quarterback. And he got less money, by the way, than Trevor Lawrence. Tua didn't even sign for the top of the market. He's now like the fourth highest paid quarterback in the league or something like that. So they didn't even pay top dollar for him. I don't. I think the only choice they have, Justin, is to pay the guy and and take their chances in the draft that they can fill some voids. That's it. Yep. Yeah, well, it's not easy to climb to the top of the mountain. It's hard unless you stumble into Brady or Patrick Mahomes. What choice do you have but to take your chances? Like I just don't think you can give up on a good quarterback. And I would say like I've only had a problem of all these quarterback deals, and there's been like a crazy run of quarterback signings the last few years. Burrow, Jackson, Allen, even Herbert, um, Tua. Jordan Love, even Dak Prescott. If he, I wouldn't, I don't have a problem with any of it. Brock Purdy, he's going to get paid. I don't have a problem with any of it. The only ones I had a problem with are Watson, Daniel Jones, and Trevor Lawrence, because I do think there is a line in there somewhere where like the guy just isn't good enough to win with, and I think that even the Watson one, I don't know if I had a problem with it at the time. It's just that he's showing he's now probably not good enough to win with. The Browns traded so much, they traded their soul, and they traded like so much resources to get Watson, and he hasn't worked out. None of us were criticizing it as a football move at the time because we felt like it would work on the field. There is a line that you can't cross where the guy just isn't good enough and you're not going to be able to surround him with talent and win. And I think those deals are the ones that I would say are. But all the other ones, even Justin Herbert, we've criticized. Burrow, Jackson, Allen, they haven't won crap. I think they could win. I think any one of those guys can win a Super Bowl at some point in their career. And I would say the same for Tua, Dak, and Brock Purdy. They've all been there. They're all now Tua and Dak are going to need more than say Josh Allen. Okay, granted, but you can win with any of those players, in my opinion. Right. Or even worse, the guy that can't play. I mean, look at Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. Again, those are the perfect examples of what happens. You spend $50 million on a quarterback, and then he sucks, and your franchise is hamstrung now for 3 years. You do. But part of this, Justin, is us being again spoiled New England fans. That only Super Bowl dynasty winning 3 runs will do for us. Like honestly, for most of the NFL, if you can go win 10 or 11 games and flirt with the playoffs and make a little run maybe in a good year in the playoffs, that is a damn good season. Tua is the best quarterback Miami has had, maybe since Dan Marino. Right. He doesn't. Agreed, but you're lumping in Tua with and Jordan Love with Trevor Lawrence. And when has Trevor Lawrence ever played like Jordan Love played in the second half of the season last year, or even like when Tua has been mentioned in the MVP race, a couple of years ago? Trevor Lawrence has never even touched that level at his best. Like to pay a guy, I'll put it this way: like, where do I draw the line? A guy at least has to have success and be a good quarterback, and then you can say, well, maybe he's good because he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I don't know. That's going to tease out over the years. But when you pay a guy like Trevor Lawrence, he's never even been good. So what makes you think he can be good with anyone around him? Like you put anyone around Mac Jones, he's probably going to suck. It could be the same for Trevor Lawrence, right? I mean, what's the difference? Yeah, absolutely. I agree because actually there were a few outs in that Daniel Jones contract, and in Trevor Lawrence is a much bigger amount guaranteed, a much bigger commitment. Okay, we'll save fantasy top five picks for next time. I want to talk about the AFC West. We're going to preview the AFC West. I got a question for you for each team, and then we can pick our division winner in the order of that division. So I want to start with Kansas City, Justin. I think most of us think they're going to win that division. I told you like 6 months ago after the Super Bowl that I thought Kansas City run was over, and that I thought they were entering. The Patriots had that 10-year run where they didn't win a title, and I thought that they were entering that run of 10 years for them, like where they were going to hit the middle part of their dynasty. Um, what I'm here to say is I love the Kansas City Chiefs off season. They had so much that I'm rescinding that take. That's in take rescinding right now. Okay. I think the Kansas City Chiefs actually have a legitimate chance to three-peat this year because I love that they brought in Hollywood Brown and I love Xavier Worthy. That's just sounds like a great pairing up with his skill set and Mahomes' skill set. I love that take. I love that. I love that pairing. I love what they did this offseason, and I think they're going to be right in it again. It was in shambles last year for most of the season. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like we saw here for 20 years, right? Like you have the quarterback, you can plug in the pieces. And when you look back on the Patriots run, right, when they hit that down spot in the dynasty, it was somewhat self-imposed. They didn't pay Deion Branch, they didn't give Brady any weapons, and it fell apart kind of for a few years. And they still were winning 10 to 12 games a year because they had Tom Brady. The Chiefs look like they're not going to make that same mistake. They aren't going to outthink this. They have the best quarterback in the league. They're going to go out of their way to get him weapons. Rasheed Rice is going to face some kind of suspension, but he can play. Like he was a good receiver last year, and they brought in some other weapons, Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. They've weaponized their offense. They've given Mahomes what he needs to be successful, and I think that puts him right back to the top of the field. I hate it. I hate it. I don't love it. I don't want it to go on. But because at some point you're gonna have to seriously talk about their dynasty versus the Patriots dynasty. It's been hot takeism to this point. But if they win another Super Bowl in a three-peat, then you're really gonna have to start comparing. Totally. Right. For 20 years. For 20 years. No one could get a quarterback for 20 years. It's amazing. Yeah, they're the clear favorite in that division. And then that's going to put them in home, if not nothing else, for the first round of the playoffs. All right, let's talk about the Chargers. I think I'm interested to see what Jim Harbaugh will do with Justin Herbert and how he will treat Justin Herbert because I'm tired of hearing about Justin Herbert's promissory greatness. I don't think he's done that much in his time in the league. Harbaugh is an old school football coach. You saw what he did at Michigan. We saw how much JJ McCarthy ran the ball. I mean, how much they ran the ball. JJ McCarthy had games where he passed 12 times. Jim Harbaugh likes to play old school football, and he's going to an NFL franchise that has like a gunslinger quarterback that can throw the ball up and down the field but can't seem to win. So I think it's going to be a real interesting mix. Is Jim Harbaugh going to let Justin Herbert cook, or is he going to make him pull back and run that kind of Harbaugh program, that pro style offense? Might be a little bit of a dinosaur in today's NFL. Yeah, right. They took all that. That's a clue right there into what the answer to this question is. By the way, yeah, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, they don't have like what have we heard about Herbert consistently for this whole time in the league is he has great wide receivers, he has great weapons, and this is probably the first year he doesn't, right? So what kind of operation are they going to run and how are they going to manage him? I think it's going to be interesting. I really do. I would not assume that that is going to be successful out there. I think Harbaugh is a great coach, but I don't know if I believe in the quarterback yet, and I just find it laughable when I hear ESPN and I hear all these national voices, and they put Herbert in the same breath as Mahomes and Allen and Joe Burrow, and it's just like, why? What has he done? It's infuriating. So we're going to see this year. Herbert, he's going to be out of it. He's not going to have the excuse to blame his coach anymore. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what we get from him. But I will say, I do think they come in second in that division, if almost by default, because the other two teams are just so bad. Oh, go for it. I want to hear it. Let's go. What do you got? I like that take. I like it. If Bo Nix comes in and the Denver Broncos have a successful year, and I like Bo Nix, you know that. Go back to last year. I said I like him, and I like that pick, and I think it was the right move for that franchise. You will be able to power the entire state of Rhode Island with the tears of Patriots fans and the crying and whining and complaining from Patriots fans. If Bo Nix comes in as successful and the Patriots took Drake May with the three pick, you will hear a whining, crying, boohoo fest with the power equal of like the Housatonic River if that happens, dude, because it will be insufferable. It will be overreaction, but it will happen. Mm-hmm. Yep. He was taking number 11 though. Yeah, or 12. Yeah. I think Denver is way better than people give them credit for. Like I think they're really if they had a quarterback, they'd be a good team. But I don't want to pick them second because I just feel like a rookie quarterback, that's too much to ask of a rookie quarterback. But if he works out, Knicks, like they will be around the 500 team. Yeah. Oh, it absolutely will be. You could have a situation where, the only team above 500 in that division is the Chiefs, and it's like 3, 6, and 11 teams or something like that. 100%. And yeah, I mean, like, look, Knicks. What was the biggest criticism we faced? We heard about Mac Jones. He never faced adversity in college. Well, Knicks faced adversity, so I think that's going to serve him well in the pros. He's in a great place with a great coach, decent weapons. I mean, it's not inconceivable that he comes in and has a great rookie year, and Drake May doesn't even see the field this year. No doubt about it. And lastly, Justin, do you agree? I mean, the Raiders clear last place in that division. I don't know. They got some weapons on that offense, I guess, but no quarterback reliably. I don't know, kind of a mess of a franchise. What do you think? I go fourth place on that Raiders team. See, I see them as like top three pick kind of material this year. I don't know. I mean, maybe Gardner Minshew elevates them a little beyond that because we've talked about him and kind of like he's a mediocre quarterback, but they look like they have the makings of a really bad football team. All right, brother. That's all we're gonna take today. You have anything else you want to add? Are you going to bet on the Hall of Fame game Thursday night? Are you going to watch it? Are you going to bet it? I feel like obviously it's stupid to bet on the game because it's like literally a glorified practice or scrimmage. But isn't it like a symbolic thing? Like football is back. Did you just have to make that symbolic first bet on the Hall of Fame game? Yeah, yeah. It is. It is. It's great. It's just great to see like football on the field. Caleb Williams isn't playing. I'm sure we're not seeing CJ Stroud. Like we're seeing like backups and fourth strings and guys that aren't even gonna be on the team in 2 weeks. But it's just great to see. Yeah, absolutely. And so and I think the Patriots' first preseason game is what, like August? Is it August like 7th or 8th? Is it coming up next week, right? I think it is. I gotta look at the schedule because I think the home game. By the way, if anyone wants to buy my tickets, reach out reasonably. Any reasonable offer will be considered. So I'm in my office, right? And like I can't tell. I keep hearing it tapping. And it's like, I don't know if someone's knocking on my door, but it's been going on for like 35 minutes. Our office closed at 5. So no one's up front. Like there's no one should be out there. So I'm like, is some like mofo knocking on my door here? Like, why is someone who is out there? So I got to go figure that out. It's definitely not the Raven. It's not the Wind. This isn't Edgar Allan Poe. Like, there's definitely someone is out there. It could be like a cleaning person. Maybe they're like trying to like knock something loose, or maybe I don't know, someone's trying to fix the printer, or there's some kind of noise out there. So I'm like, I got to get out there and figure out what's going on, man. Yeah, yeah, I'll take care of business. You might want to give me a check. You check up on me in like 5, 10 minutes, okay? All right. Well, listen, that's all the time we're going to take. I want to say thank you to everyone watch, listen. Find us on podcast, find us on iTunes, find us on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the whole 9 yards. We're doing more and more to get everything out there. We'll definitely be recording more or less weekly at this point, as certainly as the game starts. So have a great night, and thanks for listening.